Okay, it's Monday, March 27th. Welcome to SMQBs episode 108. All
What's
of
up,
our
dude?
episodes are available on Spotify, Apple Pod, and YouTube. We're
It's
missing
exciting.
we're missing Bison. He's in trial. We're missing
House.
we're missing House. He's in Spain fighting for independence for
Yeah,
Catalina.
Catalonia.
He's making some Spanish cuisine.
Yeah.
Right.
what-
His idea of fighting for independence is drinking Tempranillo and eating paella
Yeah.
on the shores of Barcelona.
He's doing his part. He's doing his part.
It did look like delicious paella, though.
Yeah.
To say.
I don't
He
know.
did a
Like,
good
is
job.
that seafood or it's just
It
suspicious
can be
stuff in there.
Yeah, I was just at a paella party and there were 3 different paellas made. One was vegetarian, one was seafood, and the other one was chicken and chorizo. So
Wow.
yeah, it could be
Otherwise
all
known
kinds
as
of
meat.
yeah.
I'm sure
So-
we'll get a recap.
Well, what we do have is a Final Four, fellas.
Hell, do we ever?
First time since
that what you call it?
First time since 1979 when seeding began that there's no 1, 2, or 3 seed in the Final Four. What a shit show, huh?
Let me
First
ask you.
time since 1970, there's 3 teams that have never been to the Final Four.
First of all,
Correct.
this is the reason Nace isn't on this pod is because he's just bathing in his wet dream that he's having over all of these non-blue blood schools being in the Final Four. But it's funny, like we all
I'm having a hard time getting that image out of my head.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Bison bathing.
Bison bathing
in his wet dream.
He's loving it. I mean, the only thing better could be that Boston College is in the Final Four.
Yeah, right.
But I feel like there's like disappointment. Isn't this what everyone wants? FAU, Miami, come on, San Diego State.
I'm happy as a clam.
Yeah,
No.
come on.
No.
No, the blue blood UNC fan, not happy. But
I'm don't get me wrong. I'm ecstatic that Duke is not in the Final Four. That's the goal after Carolina is either eliminated or doesn't make the tournament. Is ABD. So we got that. But beyond that,
the poor guy picked a second favorite team after that all happened, and then they spit the bit. That's the real problem.
Right.
Well, let's go, Pope. We'll go right into that in the South. After Alabama shocked the world by losing to San Diego State just squeaked by Creighton. Talk about that.
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it. So my screen shot for you, Craigie, out there, and all the other Creighton fans, is the final play of the game. The game was tied. San Diego State had the ball. They had like 13 seconds on the clock. They worked it. I thought they worked it too long, but they finally started moving, and their point guard Trammell went up in the air, and no question, because I even have a little arrow for you guys, that Nemhard from Creighton did contact him and has his left hand on his waist, and you can tell in the video that he definitely pushed him. And
he had a handful of shirt too.
Whether that caused the shot to be short, Barkley was adamant. He said it didn't affect the shot. You could tell by the way the ball had left his hand almost before the major contact was made that it was going to be short. And Barkley didn't like it. Well, the end result was there was a foul. There was no time on the clock, and Trammell missed the first free throw and made the second one. So, well, actually, there was 1.2 seconds because we had that entire controversy over when did the clock start with a stopwatch and all that. But the main question was that a legit foul? And I guess I come down on a little bit between Barkley and Kenny on that. I do think it was a foul, as you would call a foul, but I think in light of the way that the game had been officiated, I could see how Creighton can have a beef because there was a lot more contact on a lot more plays that affected shots than this. and how do you make that call to decide the game, who goes to the Final Four on the final whistle. Typically, you see the refs swallow their whistles on a play like that, and so foul's a foul, but in the context, I think it was probably not the best time to make that call. That was what I thought. We'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, San Diego State
Well,
moved on.
let's
Yeah.
talk about that just for a second. Milk, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, what do we look? It sucks that it happened at the end of the game, right? But I don't know what we want. Are we wanting a policy where we don't call fouls in football and basketball, whatever, when the game's on the line or under a certain amount of time? It was a foul for sure. And you can't blame them for calling it.
You want uniformity, though.
And by
it's
the
like
way,
in baseball when you have a strike zone that's pretty flexible all game, and then when it matters, the bases loaded, 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th of the World Series, and they start calling it differently. That's what I'm saying.
I agree, but I think also more importantly, and I really believe this, and I've watched this, in slow motion over and over. At first, I said, "Oh, that's a stupid foul. He would have missed that shot anyways." I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That pull and his arm, and you can see it on that picture right there, how tight he's really forcefully on him. I think it affected the shot. So if that's what happened, you absolutely have to call it.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you've ever shot a floater, it is completely different than a regular shot. A regular shot, you're shooting the ball with a flick of the wrist, pointing your elbow at the hoop. When you shoot a floater, you're just letting go of the ball, and the momentum of your body is guiding where the ball's going to go. So if somebody alters the momentum of your body, it alters the shot. And I do think it altered the shot. But be that as it may, our friend Craig isn't making any excuses because he's got a lot of class, and I think the reason he's not is Creighton couldn't shoot the ball in the ocean for most of that game. Of course, neither could San Diego State. But geez.
Well, that was my moving on point in the analysis of that region is that San Diego State was so below the radar from a defensive perspective coming into the tournament. And, I guess the insiders knew they were a great defensive team. But, I mean, look at this, guys. They shut down Alabama. Alabama was one of the hotter shooting 3-point teams coming into the tournament. They shot 3 for 27, 11%. In the Elite 8 game, Sweet 16 game. I mean, that you can't recover from that. Brandon Miller, their star and potentially number 2 or 3 pick in the tournament, he shot 1 for 10 from 3 and 3 for 19 from the floor. So Creighton had the similar issues. They were 2 for 17 with 3-pointers.
Which is so unlike them, by the way.
Very unlike them, but I mean, very consistent with the way that San Diego State plays. They're an athletic team. They're long. They don't give up, easy points in the paint. They make you kill them from outside, but they're contesting the perimeter. I was just, they're one of those teams. They just look like a damn NBA team. They got really mature athletes who've been around for 4 or 5 years. They play like a team. They play hard. I mean, their bodies flying on every play, it seemed like. San Diego State was every bit of, a matchup disaster for Alabama and Creighton that you could have possibly had. So they're moving on, a very unlikely 5 seed going to the Final Four.
Yeah, I will say this. Creighton made the Big East proud. But, man, did San Diego State shock everybody. Milk. We're going to move on to the East. No University of Florida, no Florida State representing. Who knew that Boca Raton had a basketball team? Come on now.
It's
Boca Del Vista has a basketball team.
Yeah.
Del Boca Vista.
Actually, Lane Kiffin really put them on the map when he was football coach there. But I mean, if you take a step back and think about this, it's really unbelievable that FAU is in the Final Four. I think they got their first tournament win, right? 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now they're in the Final Four. It's unbelievable. And, they went into this, you look at their record, right? I mean, they lost 3 games all year. Okay. And I think that, the knock on them was they didn't play anybody, and there's an argument for that. But holy shit, guys, this is a legitimate team that I shit you not, I think could win it all. I really do. They have some serious talent. John L. Davis, Forrest, Elijah Martin, all these guys now they're talking about, oh, they're going to leave, go into the transfer portal, go into big D1 schools after this year.
They're in one now.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's what all big schools desire to do is go to the Final Four.
Yeah,
and they don't have state income tax on their
NIL
money they're making in
their
college.
NIL, baby. That's right. I'll tell you what, you're right. FAU better get their wallets out. They want to keep these guys, but it's been, so I went into the tennis. They're one of those teams where every time they play, you're like, okay, well, this is when it's going to end, right? So when you went into the Tennessee game, I thought, okay, first of all, they're going against one of the best defenses in college basketball. And holy crap, what a reversal they put. They played better defense than Tennessee. They outboarded them. I mean, Tennessee was 6 of 23 from
you called that one too,
right, from 3-point range. I mean, the inside game of FAU shocked me. I mean, they were dominating Tennessee in terms of rebounds. And the way they've come back, right? Like they've been down in all these games. They were down against Tennessee. You kind of said, okay, well, here we go. Here comes the shift, and Tennessee's gonna break away. And the mindset, and this is head coaching here, I think, the coaching to keep these guys in it and say there is this never quit mentality with them. And there you go. They come back and beat Tennessee. And then I thought, okay, well, I mean, we all love Kansas State, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
All on Kansas State.
So much fun.
All in that game saying this is when it ends, right? And
team of destiny, I thought.
Yeah. Noel backs it up. I think he had 30 points, right? But the rest of the team sort of collapsed, but they had a great game plan. They got Keontae Johnson, my former Gator, to foul out pretty quickly. I think he only had 9 points. And again, they dominated the boards, right? It was 44-22 in favor of Florida Atlantic. Crazy stats. Again, though, also down. They're down in the second 7-8 points, something like that. You feel like here goes Kansas State. They're going to break away. They come back. Great defense again. Really executing when they got that open shot. It's just, a lot of these teams, when they get into, I don't want to say these are the intangibles, but you're talking about an FAU team in an Elite Eight game for the first time ever in school history, and they could have very easily have mentally collapsed. And not only did they not, but they came back from down 8 points, 9 points in both of these games against these high power, well-known basketball teams, Tennessee, Kansas State, and they won the game. I think they could totally beat San Diego State, right? We all agree with that.
Yeah. Well, the way they score, sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say it. I think FAU could be playing for the national championship. In fact, if you ask me who's going to win against FAU San Diego State, I'm picking FAU, and not just out of luck. I think because of talent. I think they're out. They have more talent than now. If you get into FAU against UConn,
who does San Diego State have that's going to be able to stop their Russian juggernaut, Vladimir Golden?
Right.
That guy is a force.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've been watching a bad Rocky movie between Tennessee and FAU.
Exactly. But I mean, he will move you out from under the basket. He is key to them having such a big rebounding advantage. And he's actually got a low post game. I mean, I would say of anybody whose stock has been soaring, he's definitely up there for this tournament.
Yeah. And by the way, where was he? He's a transfer portal, right? I think he was at Minnesota or something like that.
Was he?
I think so. So here we go with the transfer portals helping some of these teams
Yeah.
advance. Nace.
I just think Florida State was underappreciated. Nobody had seen them really, and they hadn't had much competition. I mean, I don't even know who their 3 losses were to. Florida Atlantic.
Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
This is not a fluke.
I mean, they lost to Ole Miss. They beat Florida.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That I think they said they think they thought they might become legit at that point. They were when they beat Florida.
Look, they won their. I mean, they won. What are they? Conference USA.
Conference USA, but ironically, they're moving to the American Athletic Conference, the AAC, where Toby's Wave and My Ponies exist next year.
Yeah. Look, it really. I mean, they've got some serious talent on that team. They're fun to watch too, man. And they are now. And I'll tell you right now, they're down in the second. I'm not ever giving up on them. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they're
one that we can talk about the other Miami Texas game in a second, but that was the theme of 3 of the 4 games. The teams that won were down either double digits or 8 or 9 points in the second half to what was perceived as superior teams, and they were able to come back and use the momentum to go all the way.
Yeah,
that was surprising in all 3 games that happened.
Well, Pope, let's jump there to the Midwest. How is House's prediction that Drake would upset Miami holding up?
Not well. Might want to have another Rioja. Well, he's had it.
By the way,
that one.
My FAU Miami final still in play.
Yeah,
of course it is.
Still in play.
What is it? What's the interstate? Is it 95? What connects Boca and Miami?
That's right. 30 minutes. 30 minutes apart.
I mean, look, Miami. I said they would be a tough out. I didn't expect them to go to the Final Four, but they're such an interesting team. They can beat you so many different ways. Against Houston, they lit it up from 3. They're 11 for 25 against Houston from 3-point land. But against Texas, they only shot 8 3-pointers and they were 2 for 8. But they had 59% field goal percentage because those guys know how to ball. I mean, Isaiah Wong in the second half was unstoppable. He had NBA moves. He would drive, turn, pivot, go up with guys in his face, and make these little 6 and 8 footers that were so hard other teams, for whatever reason, couldn't make. But Jordan Miller, he pitched a perfect game. He was 7 for 7 from the floor and 13 for 13 from the line. First time for 27 points. That's the first time that has happened since Christian Laettner in 1992, Duke against Kentucky in that famous Sweet 16 game. So, or Elite 8 game. So Miami has some amazing talent, athletic. I think that's the theme. We talk about UConn in a second, but that's the theme of these 3 teams that were able to come back from. I mean, Miami was down 13 to Texas. Texas had a wide open 3-pointer to make it 16. I think if that had gone in, maybe some of the punch would have come out of Miami, but they just clawed back. And then I made a comment, with about 8 minutes left. I said Texas is stagnant. Their offense is they're not moving, and they're in big trouble here. And they were still up by like 6 or 7 points, but body language was awful, and Miami was on a roll. So good for Jim Larinaga, the longest tenured ACC coach now with Coach K's retirement. He's really truly one of the good guys. And,
yeah, he is.
It is, knocking off Houston and then knocking off Texas back to back to deny Houston a Final Four with either their home team or Texas, which would have just filled every potential seat there in the dome. That's an amazing basketball run by Miami.
Yeah, yep. They're the textbook definition of. I mean, Miami is why you love this tournament and why these teams get hot and go on these runs. They were an okay team this year during the regular season. I remember a horrible loss they had at the end of February against an atrocious Florida State team at home. I think they lost to Duke in the ACC tournament.
They did, but they were on a run up until then.
They had had some victories other than that Florida State loss, but they've caught fire, right? And here you go. Now I think they're done. And we'll let Rooster talk about UConn, but it's been a hell of a run to the Final Four for sure.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but in my many in every one of my many brackets, in every one of my brackets,
you should
I have
make some money this year, Rooster.
Yeah, I have UConn in the Final Four, and in one of them I have it winning it all. And after they pasted Arkansas and the Muscle Men, I said they're going to steamroll Gonzaga, and I was mocked for that comment. And sure enough, they put an 82-54 ass whipping on Gonzaga. And the story of that game is they did so despite the fact that Adama Sanogo was fasting for Ramadan. He hadn't had anything to eat or drink in like 48 hours. And Dan Hurley said he didn't sleep at all the night before. He was so worried about it. Like he couldn't even take a drink of water during the game. And he still held Timmy to like 12 points, and he dished himself 10 assists and scored 10 points. And then Jordan Hawkins lit it up with 20. And this is a really well-balanced team. That's why they're so good. They have great guard play. They can pound it down low. They play good defense, and they can hit the threes. Andre Jackson went 8, 10, and 9. Caravan had 12 points, and then they have this center who's a young guy, Donovan Klingon, who's 7'2", and they run these lob plays for him. I mean, it's a tough team to defend. It really is, and I think they've won their games by an average of 22.8 points in this whole March Madness. The only time they ever were really challenged was the first half of the Iona game, which was the opener. So I think they're going to steamroll through SoFla, whoever it is, Miami, Florida Atlantic, and win the whole thing. What do you guys predict is going to happen in the next couple of rounds?
Have they been winning too easily? I know that sounds stupid, but I mean,
they haven't been challenged. What was the Iona score?
Well, I forget what the Iona score was. But the thing is, what's been happening is they have been winning in the second half. So the games are somewhat close in the first half. So I don't think they're that cocky. I think Dan Hurley has to jump on their asses in the locker room at halftime, and then they come out and perform. And Dan Hurley is a fantastic coach. He's not going to let them get big heads.
Right. I mean, that's the problem at this point, if there is one.
Yeah.
I mean, UConn, I looked at their record and the flow of it this year. I mean, they were undefeated for 15, 16 games?
Yeah, they were ranked 2 behind Purdue for a long time, and then they hit a rough patch.
They hit 1 at one point, didn't they?
Yes, for like a week.
And then they hit that rough patch. I don't know if it was because of injuries or just.
I think it was that, and playing in the Big East. I mean, we had Marquette, we had
Xavier,
UConn, Xavier, and Creighton all having really good years. So every game was a war.
Yeah,
which I think made them tough by the time they got out of it. But they lost the Big East tournament to Marquette by a few points.
With all due respect to San Diego State and Florida Atlantic, because I am very impressed. I'm very impressed so far with them. I think Miami and UConn, to me, that's the national championship game. I think the winner of that game will win the tournament.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. And if it's UConn, it will be steamroll number 3 against Miami, and then number 4 against Florida Atlantic or San Diego State.
Well, you can mark my words and use them against me next Monday, or actually Tuesday, whatever, whenever we do the pod. But Miami is not going to be steamrolled.
Well, that's what they said about Gonzaga.
I realize that they're a different breed than Gonzaga. Gonzaga was a little soft. Miami is not going to let that happen to them.
Hope supporting the ACC.
Yeah. Well, let's.
No, it's the eye test. That's just that's what I see. Miami is
No,
not
I don't
gonna,
think I don't think UConn's just going to win another game by 30 points. They're going to be challenged at some point.
Who do you think is going to win it this year, Milk? Who takes the chip?
I mean, all signs point to UConn hanging a fifth banner. I mean, am I going to say FAU? The U? Oh my God.
How about you?
I'm going to vomit if Miami wins a basketball national championship.
You're what?
I'm going to vomit.
Get your bag ready, Betty.
Wow.
All right. Is that your
The
pick,
U.
Pope?
The U will be
You've got
cutting
the
down
U.
the nets next
Pope's
Monday
got
night
the U.
in Houston.
All right. All right.
Right.
You heard it here.
Mark
You heard it here.
down, the U. Holy shit. No way. They're not doing no way. No way.
I got the U over. I do have the U actually over Florida Atlantic. That's the game. I think that's the game.
I think Florida Atlantic is going to play for the national championship.
I would be happy for their coach. I mean, he coached here in Virginia at George Mason for a long time and was quite a character. Good guy. Good guy.
All the coaches are interesting stories in this whole. You got Dutcher or whatever out at San Diego State who was apprenticed to Steve Fisher for like 25 years at Michigan and then San Diego State.
Yep. Guy from Texas got the full-time offer, Milk. He's no longer interim.
No, he deserved it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He did.
Absolutely. That's a big win for them.
Well, let's move on to the NBA playoff picture. There's like 6 games left for most teams.
I'm going to go ahead and mute and just let me know when we're done with that.
While we're doing that, maybe we can discuss the new book out by Kyrie Irving called "How to Take a Playoff Team and Suck the Life Out of It."
Hey, we're going to talk about it in another segment, but it's not Kyrie's fault. He's been a model teammate by all accounts.
He's done something to Luka so that Luka no longer loves the game.
Well, it's hard to love the game when you're getting your ass kicked by lottery tanking teams.
Yeah, well, so the play-ins start April 11th, and I guess we go over this again from last year. The way it works is the first 6 teams in each conference are in, and then team 7 and 8 play each other. The winner becomes the 7th seed, and then team 9 and 10 play each other. The winner then plays the loser of the 7-8 for the 8th seed. So right now in the West, if the season ended today, in Denver, Memphis, the Kings, the Suns, the Clippers, and the Golden State Warriors would be the first 6 teams in that order. And playing for the 7th seed, 7 versus 8, would be the T-Wolves and the Pelicans. Playing for 9-10 would be the Lakers and OKC. And I mean, I just have to say, Pope, and I know you feel the same way. It's just amazing that that Dallas is not ahead of OKC at this point.
No, absolutely. The talent differential is, no, it's hard to stomach, especially when they went to the finals last year, in the conference finals last year.
What has happened to them? Why they've lost 4 in a row?
They've lost 4 in a row. They've lost 7 of 10.
Oh.
They've lost in every conceivable way. Heartbreaking, last minute shots, stupid into the game, decision making, and then lack of effort, especially in the beginning of the game, puts them in a hole they can't come back from against lesser opponents.
Luka made a statement maybe yesterday that he used to play the games with a big smile and love the game, and now he's just miserable and bitching at the refs the whole time. I don't think he likes Kyrie Irving.
We're going to take a little deeper dive. Like I said, you can dismiss Dallas right now. They are not going to make the playoffs. Not unless there's some serious change of approach and mentality, and I don't see it happening. I mean, they play the Pacers tonight. They play the Sixers on Wednesday. They still have to play the Suns again. I mean, they didn't beat the teams they had to, like the Hornets, when they could have been gaining in the standings. So they're toast. Put a fork in them.
All right.
What is KD's status? Do you know? Is he back?
I don't think he's back, is he?
I don't think so either.
I think they're still trying to get him back the final week, but next week is the final week.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're stay in the West for a couple seconds before we go to the East, but Memphis, I thought Sacramento was going to get second seed, but Memphis has gone on a tear. They've won 9 of 10. Ja is back now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to play Memphis. And Phoenix, the Clips, and the Warriors, who are, even though they're 5-5 the last 10, they're still playing better. They're all fighting for the 4 seed. And Denver is they've won 3 in a row, but they're 5 and they're just kind of spinning their wheels until the playoff starts. The real action is there's still 2 games separating the 6 seed and the 11 seed, which is Dallas. So you still have a lot of jockeying to go in the final 7 games.
I mean, you're going to have at least a couple of teams in there with a losing record, and then one maybe at 500.
Right.
But the answer to the question about KD, according to the Google machine, is he's expected to play Wednesday against the T-Wolves.
Okay.
I just don't think that's enough time for him to develop a rapport with his new team. And if he had, man, I would have had them winning the West. Now, hard to say, really hard to say. The Clippers could surprise a lot of people if everyone's healthy. But Paul
PG's
George
out,
hurt?
though.
He's out for the year, right?
I think he's out for the year with his knee injury.
And who knows whether Golden State can ever pull it together and then pull another run like they did last year. In the East, Boston finally looks like they settled down for the 2 seed. The big matchup, if nothing changes in the next 6 games, would be 4 Cleveland against the Knicks at 5. That would be a good series, really good series. I think probably
that looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the Heat's going to come out of the play-in, and who else? Maybe the Raptors.
Well, you got Hawks, Raptors, and Bulls all within a half game, and they're 8, 9, 10 in that order.
Yeah.
11 Pacers, they're out.
Yeah.
So the East is set.
The East is set. So 7 is Miami, 8 is Atlanta, 9 is Toronto, 10 Chicago at this point.
Yeah, but okay, so the Bucks only have a game. That's as close as I've seen it in a while. The Bucks only have a game and a half on Boston now for the number 1 seed.
Right.
And I know don't they have to play again before the end of the year? Don't they have to play?
Yeah.
Milwaukee and Boston.
Yeah.
And the Sixers have some tough games coming up too, including Denver.
Yeah, they play this week, Milwaukee and Boston.
Yeah, Thursday they play. I mean, that could decide the East.
Well, so as a non-NBA guy, as I am, who in the, I mean, to me, it seems like the East is, who's going to challenge anyone in the East? It seems very top heavy with the Bucks and Celtics and Sixers. These are all like, I mean, is Denver scare any of those guys?
No.
I don't think so. I mean, Denver has played better than all but the Bucks and the Celtics for part of this year. They have a better record than the Celtics right now, I think. Well, the Celtics have one
No,
less loss. Yeah.
Celtics have a better record.
So Milwaukee and the Celtics have a better record than Denver, but I don't think Philadelphia is afraid of Denver at all.
No.
I mean, I think Embiid eats that guy's lunch.
There's not really a team in the West that would scare any of the Eastern
What about Memphis?
powers.
Well, this a healthy Suns that coalesces would scare any team. I just don't see them having enough time to make that happen. Because Ayton can play defense against all these big guys. And then you just have the scoring trio. I don't know. Too early to tell. We'll revisit this. We don't need to spend a ton of time on the NBA playoffs right now. But I do want to, speaking of the NBA, I would like to pour one out for the captain, Willis Reed.
Yeah.
This guy is the reason that I'm a Knicks fan. Back in 1970, I actually was tall for my age. Unfortunately, I stopped growing at about that time, but I thought I was going to be like a center when I grew up. And I used to wear this little headband and pretend I was Wilt Chamberlain and practice all these sky hooks and everything around the hoop.
Listeners, we'll pay good money for a picture of
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad and I watched this series together. He was a Knicks fan. I was a Lakers fan. And after Willis Reed limped out in, I think he got hurt in game 5, hurt his thigh so badly that they didn't think he was coming back. They didn't even know whether he was coming back in game 6. His teammates had no idea. And apparently, according to Phil Jackson, apparently he took like 3 or 4 horse shots, is what he called them, in the thigh, taped himself up.
What year is this?
1970. I was 8 years old.
Any and everything.
He comes limping out, and Marv Albert yells out, "And here comes Willis!
Here comes Willis!"
The Lakers all looked at him in shock. The whole place just was in shock. And the guy hits his first 2 shots.
And those game 7, Rooster.
Was it?
Sat out game 6.
Those are the only 2 shots he made the whole game, but just his presence and his defense against Wilt made the difference, and they won the championship. That year, he won the MVP, the All-Star MVP, and the playoffs, or the championship MVP. First person to ever do that. And then a year or 2 later, I think it was the 72-73 team, so a couple years later, they had picked up Earl the Pearl Monroe and John Lucas, who went on to become a famous magician, and won their second and last championship. And it was just a fun team. The reason they actually beat the Lakers in 70 in that game, on top of all the drama of Willis Reed coming back, was Clyde the Glide Frazier had a hell of a game, and just, he should have been the MVP, but they gave it to Reed. And he's now the announcer along with Mike Breen for all Knicks games. And if you want to be entertained, you should listen to him, because he thinks he's a poet. And so he tries to make things rhyme in every sentence. And so, he'll say something and then come up with 2 more phrases that have to rhyme with what he said. And it can be ridiculous, but it's pretty funny. Anyway, the Knicks celebrated the 50th anniversary of the 1972-73 win recently, and Willis couldn't make it because he was so ill, and then died just like, I think it was late last week. So let's pour one out for Willis, age 80, the captain of the Knicks.
Pour one out. What's amazing about Willis is that anytime in the NBA, when a player goes out and looks like some gruesome injury, they can barely walk, they have to be assisted to the locker room, and then they, miraculously make an appearance either later in that game or earlier than they should. It's always, the announcers always call it a Willis Reed moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I haven't heard of anybody taking horse shots in a long time. So pretty sure they're not Willis Reed moments.
It's very highly regulated now.
All right, let's move on to punchable face of the week.
Who's got one?
Hope.
Oh, I've got one.
Oh,
Kind of dovetails on our NBA discussion about a certain team in Dallas that's more like Rooster. How do you say it?
Alice.
With no D. D stands for Doncic, though, of course, Luka, the face of the franchise. Uh, this punch is for a more body of work this year, more so than anything else. It's just been building, and I've been waiting, kind of right for the right moment, but it's here. And I really don't put anything on Kyrie as far as causing where they are right now. I think, Luka has a maturity problem. He is more so than any other NBA player that I can remember. And there's been some local sportscasters, credit to Craig Miller of The Ticket, who've done a deep dive into complaints that Luka makes on a game basis compared to others that are, like LeBron. So when LeBron played here in the game where they overcame a 27-point deficit, he compared Luka's complaints versus LeBron, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was staggering. It's like Luka had like 27 or 28 times where he was complaining of a no call or something that the ref did or didn't do. And LeBron, I think, was like maybe 6 or 7. So the perception, that LeBron always whines, he deserves it, but Luka is in a different stratosphere. And when Luka does that, it detracts from his game. It distracts him from the what he needs to be doing. It causes him not to be able to get back and play whatever defense he can play, which is another reason I'm punching him, because he doesn't care about defense. He's a liability out on the floor. He's got 15 technicals. He had 16 this morning, but the NBA rescinded the last one they gave him yesterday. Well, 16 technicals gets you an automatic 1-game suspension, which should have been tonight against the Pacers in a game that Dallas absolutely must win to have any kind of hope. And so Luka, again, very selfish, to detract to his team, was going to be suspended, but the NBA, saved him, at least for 1 game. But he had this press conference, Rooster, you were alluding to it, where he said, he wasn't having fun this year. Well, man up, dude. This is the NBA. It's 82 games. It's a slog, and you need to bring your A game every game. And if you're not having fun, then suck it up and do something, productive, whether it's on the defensive end or the offensive end or supporting your teammates. He plays with a carefree attitude, which is great. It enables him to make some amazing. He's got all the talent in the world, but this lack of maturity, continue complaining of no calls and blaming everything on the referees is a recipe for him never reaching his full talent. And if he doesn't do that, and he doesn't turn the ship around, then Dallas as a franchise is in a lot of trouble, because they have bet the farm on Luka. And, players aren't going to come over here.
And they gave up a ton to get Kyrie.
They did. And players aren't going to come to Dallas to play with somebody who's like throwing a temper tantrum every time down the court and is costing the team, the ability to defend or, win some of these games. So I'm punching you, Luka, dude. I love you. And you are a franchise for Dallas, but you've got to do better. If you don't do better, I'm not going to be sorry to see your ass leave.
Little love punch for My Name is Luka. Milk, do you have anything? I have one if you don't.
No, I mean, I kind of want to maybe punch Lamar Jackson. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, he said he wanted to be traded today, right?
Yeah.
Well, allegedly he said it on March 2nd.
He's claiming it was March 2nd. And I mean, what is all indications? What was he offered? Like 200 million? I think he was offered 200 million if he's still on the team in like 2026 or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll just slap him right now.
All right. I've
Yeah,
got
work yourself up to a punch.
I have a milk
Yeah.
slap as well. It's not a full punch, but it's a milk slap. You mentioned LeBron Pope. He came back and played yesterday after that foot injury. And what he said was he had a tendon tear, and his doctor told him that he healed from that injury faster than any other human being in the world could have, which kind of
Trumpian.
reminded me of Trump's family doctor with the long white hair.
Who said that? His
LeBron.
doctor said that?
LeBron said that his doctor said it.
That is so, I mean,
then
unbelievable.
it turns out that the doctor is a podiatrist, not even an MD. And LeBron claimed that every other doctor he went to said he'd never come back, and that this podiatrist got him back from this tendon tear. So he refers to the guy as the LeBron of doctors, of foot doctors. I mean, what a fucking megalomaniac to talk like that. Come on, man.
The
Slap.
fact that Nace just loves this guy really pisses me off. So glad you punched him when he's not on the show today.
Oh, man. So those weren't too bad, but nonetheless, it would be nice to end on a happy note. Who has a lasso?
By the way, real quick, if House was on the program, he would have absolutely punched the officials for the Creighton San Diego State call. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's punched officials in every single league this year. Football, basketball, NBA. That would have been his option.
Good lesson for his children.
Would have been
It's always the ref's fault. It's such a Philly move.
Yeah.
Would have been entertaining to hear him have a Spanish punch.
That's right.
Yes.
Like, some bullfighter he's gonna punch or something like that. But so I've got a lasso. I don't know if anybody saw credit to Sports Center last night. The story about this St. John's College high school coach, Patrick Behan. Anybody see that?
No.
So Patrick is the coach at St. John Cadets, and they're in the Washington Catholic Athletic League, the WCAC, and he has been there for a while and is diagnosed in August of 22 with ALS. We know obviously how devastating ALS can be, and he decided that he didn't want to leave coaching. That was like kind of what he was living for, was to continue to coach in his family. So he coached them through the year, and obviously the horrible disease started to take control physically, mentally, and they showed how he was having mobility issues, and he didn't have much energy. And his girlfriend said, sometimes he would come home from practice and he'd go to sleep, and then he would wake up the next day in time to just get back up and go to practice. But these guys took him on an amazing ride. They dedicated the season to him, obviously, and this week their team won the conference title, the Washington Catholic Athletic Conference title. A guy hit a three-pointer with about 6 seconds left to put them up by 2, and then they survived the last-second shot. And so, it was very emotional. He doesn't know if he's going to be here, next year this time, and the way that he coached those kids and the way they rallied around him, it's kind of the essence of what we look for a sports good feel story. As sad as it is, it does show an amazing story of courage and overcoming adversity. So lasso this week to Patrick Behan, the head coach with ALS at St. John College High School.
Nice.
Love
Milk?
Nice milk.
Any last thoughts, Milk?
baseball is right around the corner. Look out for our big baseball preview coming up.
Right.
Yes, that's
We have
right.
to have our
That's right.
baseball expert
Got to
back
get
from
Bison
trial,
back
though.
for that one.
Yeah.
The other thing is let's not completely ignore the women's
Yes.
March Madness.
right.
This is also the first year in a long time that there are no blue bloods in
No UConn.
in the Elite Eight. No UConn, no Stanford, no Tennessee. I don't think Notre Dame's in there either. But watch out for the number one team, Dawn Staley, our Virginia's own Dawn Staley, coached South Carolina. These women are the next UConn. I think
Oh,
they're going to
yeah.
be a dynasty. They're going to be
They're
a
undefeated.
dynasty. And they were great last year. I think they won it last year. They're a great team, and she is. In fact, she was being interviewed to coach men's teams and turned it down for a huge contract to stay at South Carolina. She's a hell of a coach. So tune in, man. That'll be a good game.
Love it. When's the national championship?
I had it right here and I misplaced it. Hold
This
on.
week?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this week.
Yeah.
Here it is.
It might be on Sunday, in between the Final Four games. I can't
It's
remember.
it's the Final Four is March 31st, starting Friday.
Yeah, so
And
it's
then
Friday,
Sunday the 2nd is the championship. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sunday the 2nd. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it should be a fun Final Four, guys.
Yeah. Yep. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll all be back for episode 109.
This is the best time of the year, right? It's the Final Four. We got everybody thinks they have a chance at baseball, the first pitch of the year. And what's right around the corner? The Masters.
I'm just going to preview this for you. The Yankees injuries are going to be a blessing in disguise. We're going to see some awesome young players come up this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
They look good on Saturday, kicking the shit out of the Phillies.
Yes. All right, fellas.
Fantastic.
We'll see you next week. Good show.